Hello, everyone. Everyone, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Depending on where you are, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It is Gail and Melvin here. And if you've been following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube also, you know that we have been talking about relationships and the ins and outs and the do's and the don'ts on um, trying to have a successful marriage or um, relationship because it just seems like everyone is just throwing in the towel too fast, too soon, and no one is really working hard to kind of say that. So we've been talking about, different measures that you can take to just make that marriage or relationship survive the times because definitely we are in a different I just want to say a different time where things are happening so fast and it's just so much um I almost wanted to say demonic forces really seem like they're taking over people and everyone's just heading for the hills in their relationship instead of fighting to stay together. What you
Yeah.
think?
Well, and for those out there, two awesome relationships. There are some people that don't want a relationship. We understand that too. With some people like, hey, I'm fine alone. I don't want to be in a relationship, and that's okay. That
Right.
is totally okay. But for those that are and do want to be in a relationship, yeah, it takes work. Relationship is
Yeah.
work. It takes work. It's kind of I mean, you say 24 hours, around the clock job. It's
Right.
relationships work. It's hard work,
Right.
and everybody know that it's not something that you just take easily. It's hard work.
Exactly. And you know what I want to say from a woman's point of view, and to me, it goes for men and women both. Like when you start wanting to, and I'm just speaking from my own point of view, not from my experience, but from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to start um, taking your eye, trying to stretch it around a corner to look at someone else, what if you could not resolve what was going on in the, your present relationship? You for sure will have
Oh,
problems in the next one.
oh yeah. Oh, because you always think that old saying, "The grass is green on the other side," and then meanwhile, they don't even try. It's just the same amount of work that what you just left, and maybe even harder. And then sometimes you have a tendency of saying, "Oh well, I'm gonna go with this," and then after
Right.
you do, you be like, "Well, I wish I would have stayed with that." Of course, you should have put in the work and stayed there. See, we have a tendency of let me see how many like right a good word for that. I wouldn't say greed or your eyes bigger than your belly. I don't know. We just figure there's always something better and don't realize you have that there, right
Right.
there, and it's like, okay, well, I can do better. Hey,
E-
if your relationship is fixable and it's nothing all that major, then why not just work at that? Why not just work at that?
Exactly. Exactly. And I also believe that a lot of times we don't want to accept the responsibility. So we're not running from our partner, we're running from the responsibility, the commitment. So if you cannot commit to anything in your first relationship, and what we keep saying over and over is if that relationship, that marriage is toxic, then it is time to
Yeah,
throw that
yeah,
towel in.
yeah.
No one's saying stay there and somebody going upside your head, or stay there and every time you turn around it's 7 days in a week and 5 of those days he or she is cheating. No one is
Yeah.
saying that. And what I also want to say is something that we didn't bring up the last time is when there's children that's there in that relationship, when that relationship ends, you still have a responsibility to that child.
Yes.
And so instead of, I think where we fail our children there is that, so instead of trying to just keep that relationship going and then repairing that child that's probably seen the worst of the worst, we tend to want to just fly the coop and then say, you know what, now that's your problem because now I have to do me. No, you don't have to do you.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that.
no, you
I
don't have
agree
to
with
do
that.
you. Um, and so, I did a little research. Like I said, those who know me know I love to research, right? And the previous video, I just read like 8 things to do to try to save your relationship. But this here time now, I am looking and researching from a different point of view, and this is from a biblical point of view. Okay, so yeah, this one's from a biblical point. Now, I am going to read what I found during my research. Okay, so it says, looking to build a marriage that's godly, reverent, and lasting. We've assembled a list of 6 important attributes for you from scripture that you and your fiance or spouse can meditate on and discuss as you plan your wedding, or that you and your spouse can focus on in your day-to-day married life. And of course, the greatest of all ingredients for a godly marriage is love. But the following list details some of the other important qualities the Bible tells us we need in order to have a happy, harmonious, lifelong marriage. Now, these qualities come from love, and they're just as important to a marriage as the warm fuzzies you feel for one another. Okay, so the first one is faithfulness. It says, when we say our vows at the altar, we promise to be faithful to one another for as long as we live. Loyalty to our spouse is the foundation of trust and in our marriage. When loyalty and faithfulness disappears, so does that trust. And once broken, trust is difficult to reestablish. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. And that's in Mark 10, verse 9. And there, I do want to say that's important. Faithfulness, like you have to remain faithful to your partner, whether you're in a marriage or whether you're just boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You have to remain faithful, because that's true. Once the faithfulness is gone, once the loyalty is gone, the trust is not there anymore.
But his thing to me, I look at it on the other side of that.
Mhm.
Some things in some relationship and some marriages can be repaired. Because I'm a stone world. No one's perfect. Even in
Right.
the Bible, we all fall short, but you get back up. That old saying, you get back. Some
Always.
things can be repaired
That's
if
right.
you agree to repair it together. So
Exactly.
it can work. It can work if you want it to work. Now, I don't look at certain things when it comes to marriages like, okay, well, this is done. No, not if you work at it. Because
Right.
his thing, you're going to have those hard times.
Exactly.
Those pitfall times where that you will have to pull each other up and you work at it, because that's what a
Exactly.
marriage is for. That's any relationship. You work at
Yes.
it together. You work at it.
Exactly. Exactly. The second one is honor. Um, Honor as high respect, esteem. It's next level respect. As married couples, we're meant to give the highest regard to one another. We show honor in ways we speak to each other, and the way we behave, and the way we conduct ourselves, both in and out of home. And this, to be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves. And this is in Romans 12:10. And we spoke about that part, we did, about respecting one another.
Yeah.
That to honor, to show love and respect, and putting your spouse first. And like I said before, it just goes back to, I just truly believe that, like, a lot of relationships and marriages sometimes fails when we just don't allow the man to be the man, because the man is the head of the household, and he is to honor and love and respect you and treat you as his equal. But when we want to be the man and the woman and not give that man a chance, then, you know, we're bound to fail.
And let me on this part. There seems to be a double standard, or I should say, because I feel this way. When they say the man's the head of the household, in today's time, you would have some women look at that as like, well, how's that when I make most of the money?
That don't mean anything.
And it's like, so what?
Yes,
so
that doesn't mean anything.
What? Well, I make most of the money.
No, that means you're materialistic.
Yeah, it's like, so, I mean,
you're
that still
materialistic.
makes him the head of the household.
Right.
King and queen. You still are the queen. King,
right.
Queen. So,
right.
But that's today's time with women thinking like, well, if I'm making most of the money, then at least, I mean, I'm the head of the house.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
No.
And the relationship is bound to fail.
Yes. It's like, no, come on.
You're bound to fail when you think because you have a higher income, that means that you are the man of the house. You're not the man of the house. You are a man's helper. And if you have to help out, then you just help out. Don't make that mistake, because a lot of mistakes are being made there.
Mm-hmm.
Humility. Pride and arrogance have no place in a harmonious marriage. Instead, we're meant to be humble and unassuming. We shouldn't jump to the worst case conclusions about one another. And we must always be ready to step up and admit when we're wrong. Humility means not pushing our opinions on one another, even when you're right, and giving your spouse the floor when we might really want it ourselves. Now, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. And that's in Ephesians 4, verse 2 to 3. And that right there, I want to say that is true, because when you are the head of the household, you know, that does not mean that you take advantage of that situation. If a situation arises and, you know, your partner is wanting to express themselves, then you are to allow them to express themselves.
I agree.
You know, not everything that you agree with or that you do that someone else is going to agree. You give that person time to come around. But, you know, to me, at the same time, you know, you have to trust your mate. You have to trust that your husband, your boyfriend, whoever that is the head of the household, you have to trust that they're going to make a decision. But when you're making that decision as the head of the household, then you are to include your partner in that decision making.
I agree.
The fourth one is patience. It can be a challenge to be patient with one another, especially when it comes to the inevitable personality clashes we have with our spouses from time to time. But the scripture urge us to exercise patience and to show kindness when we're feeling irritated with one another. It's one of the many attributes that help us keep peace in our marriages. And it says, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. And again, that's Ephesians 4:2. And right there, patience is everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think patience.
I agree,
you have to have patience.
Oh yeah.
Because without patience, that means you flying off the handle about everything.
Yeah. And people always have a tendency when they come into a marriage or relationship, everything's always good the first couple of years, because it doesn't go wrong.
Because really wrong. we don't see what's going on, because there's a lot that we hide. We sweep under the rug until we think we get in good, and then the next thing we know, all the flaws start showing.
Exactly.
That's what that's about.
Exactly. My thing is, if you can't, and you don't want no people that can't handle a relationship, you can't handle a marriage, it's not. Then my thing is, be alone.
Yes,
Don't make
yes,
the
stay
other person
single.
suffer. Don't.
Yeah,
And,
right.
and his thing, don't sit around here and people use that word very loosely. I love you. Yeah, you love me when things is good. Well, why about when things is bad? I mean, wait. Oh, I love you in a certain way. Yeah, you tell me that now. You didn't tell me that before.
Right.
You know, you wait. It's like they use that word love very loosely, very loosely. It's like,
Mhm.
and it just stop. Because if you don't
Exactly.
care about someone or you fall in love with someone, be honest with them and then let
Bounce.
them move on.
Yeah.
Let them move on.
Don't
Don't
try
sit.
to mentally hold them
Yes,
hostage.
yes. And they'll say things like, "Oh, well, I'm in love with you a certain way." What do that mean? What the heck is that?
Tell me about it.
It's like what do I mean? I don't understand that word. I love you in a certain way.
Right?
Come on, it's either you love me unconditionally or you don't.
And
Or you
that's what it
don't.
is. And that is the vow, for better or for worse. Don't
Love should never
right.
come with conditions. That's it.
Unconditional.
Unconditionally. Unconditionally.
Exactly. Now the fifth one is understanding, because a marriage consists of two very different people merging their lives and creating a home together. It is important for us to try to understand each other, especially when our spouse is hardest to understand. Practicing empathy, the art of stepping into your spouse's shoes and seeing situations from his or her angle, will help you as you work daily to understand one another. In the same way, you husbands must give honor to your wives. Treat your wife with understanding as you live together. And that's in First Peter 3 and 7. And understanding that right there to me is the key, because that is true. You need to put yourself in the other person's shoes, in that other person's thoughts, and see what it feels like when someone is trying to express something to you. Don't shut them down.
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't shut them down, because
Yep.
that will cause, when you shut someone down and not
Yeah.
have
Yes.
understanding, they
Yes.
bottling things up, and the
Yo.
next thing
Yeah.
you know, boom,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
explode.
Because when you express yourself to your spouse, loved one, whatever the case may be, and you get back this negative that they don't care what you're saying. Once you shut down, someone shut down, that's it. Because then they're not going to share nothing
Yeah,
with you ever again.
that's right.
They're
That's
just not
right.
going to do it. And
Right.
what's going to happen is, in the most cases, it happens. It's not the point of they're cheating with someone else. That person that they spoke to showing that they care about how they feel. So now they speaking to you like, well, you could have told me that. And they were like, well, I spoke to you about that. And you didn't even care.
Right.
But now all of a sudden it's a
So,
big, you know what I mean? And you got to realize that.
exactly. The sixth one is unity. In a marriage, husbands and wives are on the same team, two people who have chosen to be joined together as one. Unity doesn't mean you have to agree on everything or have all the same preferences, likes, and dislikes. Instead, it means sticking together in spite of your differences. It is a conclusion decision, it's a conscious decision to work together to reach consensus, compromising when necessary as you make decisions together, both big and small. And all and over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. And that's Colossians 3:14. You're one. You're one. When you are in a relationship, you are two people that agree to be on the same page. It may take one a while to get there, but once you know he have my back, I have his back, and we should be good.
You know, it took me a while to realize with that situation, that word me one, because, you know, when you hear people like, oh, okay, so-and-so husband, this and that, and oh, they're a fool for standing by them. It's not. Then you realize, you know, as you get over, like, oh, they stood by him because that's their husband. That's his wife. You're going to
Right.
ride it all the way out. They may solve and disagree when that door closes. But when we outside, we are one. I'm standing behind her or him all the way till the
That's
end.
right. That's
Because
right.
I mean, it's through thick and thin,
Thin.
for better for worse. That's the whole idea. You know
Right.
that old saying that people always say, you know, oh yeah, this is about, you know, hey, a friend and stuff like, oh yeah, well, it's easy to say you're a friend when things are going well.
Right.
True friends when things go wrong.
Exactly.
That's when you really find out who's true friend. Because when things are easy, everybody's a friend. But when things go wrong, where is the true friend?
Exactly.
And that's the whole thing. The same thing with a marriage.
Yep.
You stick it through all of it.
All the way.
And when y'all decide through your person, sit down and have a talk, and y'all come to an end, that's on y'all. But anything else, we're together on this. I would be by my wife's side through anything. And I don't even care if I really truly disagree with her. You ain't gonna know that.
Boom,
you ain't gonna know that.
Right there.
You ain't never lied. And that's the whole thing with society. People are like, oh, what a fool. Oh, he's a fool. She's a fool. What? I would have left something because you're weak. You're weak. Yeah, I would have left. Man, I would have left in a minute. I used to think like that. So I realized, like, hey, you know what? No.
That's right.
Ride that thing out. And then everybody's surprised. Like, oh, well, I'm not surprised 4 or 5 years later, they separated. Oh, wow, she should have left me. Then, and you don't realize they probably didn't separate because of that issue you thought it was. Probably something totally fucking different. Totally different.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, real talk.
It's like, come on, I realized that. And I learned to keep my mouth shut.
Out in public, you are
those
one
that are married, and I respect it. I don't care, thick and thin. I love it. I even love have a softening in my heart. I always say for those elderly, they make me feel so warm when I see someone in their 90s, still together,
they both
walking.
Hunched over. They both got their matching wheelchairs.
I love that. And it hurts my heart. I always say it's a God blessing to say, well, when one of them leaves and passes away, and people always say, well, she or he went 4 or 5 years later, because they lost their best friend. Their whole world is gone.
Yeah.
I don't care. You can have kids and grandkids, but your spouse is your world. Your husband, your wife, that's your world. Because your kids, they're beginning their own lives. That's your world right there. When that goes, you feel you got nothing. That's my best friend. That's everything.
Exactly.
It took me a while to realize that, and I respect that. I respect them. Man, I always want to respect someone's marriage. I respect it.
Right.
I respect it.
And now, guys, this is another research that I've done. And so here, the ingredients for a healthy marriage are like those for a wonderful cake or delicious pie. You must include the right amount added at the right time, mixed together with the right blend, and bake in the heat of an oven for the right amount of time. As couples work to include the best ingredients for marriage, we are aware that the benefits and ramifications are significant for our churches, communities, and country. Now, 10 ingredients for a healthy marriage: communication, commitment, compassion, intimacy, respect, appreciation, partnership, acceptance, love, hope. Now, the foundation and bedrock of a healthy marriage include communication, commitment, and compassion. Those 3 C's. These allow the healthy marriage to grow, flourish within a goal of understanding, devotion, and tenderness. When intimacy, respect, and appreciation are included in the healthy marriage, clear signals can be sent and received that say, I want to connect with you, honor you, and I am grateful for you for who you are. Now, the partnership, companionship and friendship add a sense of common purpose and destination to a healthy marriage. Adding hope to this mixture is the ingredient that, if included, there is perseverance, and if missing, there is frustration. If that is missing, there's frustration. Finally, as in any recipe, there is one ingredient used in greater quantities than any other in a healthy marriage. That ingredient is love. When the good of the other person is the goal of both husband and wife, a healthy marriage can be seen baking in the midst of the oven of life. Now, here's some key points. There are no guarantees that a marriage will last, but tending to it along the way can help. All couples face disagreements or conflicts at some point. Happy couples just know how to deal with it effectively. Relationships satisfaction shifts over time, but being prepared for a downfall can protect a relationship from falling apart. And the next, no one enters a serious relationship waiting for it to fail. We all want to be half of the couple that beats the odds. While we know that around 45% of marriages will end in divorce, we always want to believe that we can do better than the other 45% and actually keep the happily ever after going strong. While there are so many incentives to remain in a relationship, which include enjoying a longer life, and this is with the National Center on Mortality, staying in a dissatisfying and conflictual relationship can be absolutely detrimental to health and well-being. So, guys, that is our take on um, how to survive a relationship and what all that needs to be included to make it work. And we done gave you the biblical point on what it is, um, what it is that you need to do to make sure that you are in a healthy relationship and take accountability for your actions. So, what that being said, again, we're no psychologists, we're no experts. We're speaking of experience. We are speaking of what we have seen happen through family and friends. So, with that being said, in our next segment, we will speak about what are the downfalls to a marriage. What is the main reason that is causing a lot of marriages to fail, a lot of relationships to fail? So again, this is Gail and Melvin sharing our thoughts on relationships today. Okay, so we will be back in our next episode, and hopefully you guys are getting something out of this from Lovely Lips or whatever, whoever he is today.
Hopefully.
Hopefully,
In a good way. In a good way.
Right. And once again, if you think there is something that we missed or something that needs to be addressed, by all means, use the email address to the point 1018@gmail.com, or just drop a comment and we will address
And
it.
any questions for old Sweet Lips?
I said Lovely Lips, but it's just Sweet Lips, okay? All right. And if it's for Sweet Lips, just put in reference to Sweet Lips, okay? Thank you so much.